بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. First and foremost, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to reach the month of Ramadan, and may He, the Most High and the Exalted, allow us to have the honor of serving Him, worshiping Him, obeying Him, and being mindful of His laws, His rights, and His duties upon us in that month. Allahumma ameen. I thank all of the brothers and the sisters here at the IMFC for putting together this wonderful event, an event, inshallah, which is blessed, beneficial, and fruitful to us all. Those who are in attendance, those who are online, listening, watching, may Allah Azza wa Jal give you the benefit, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the hasanat, the good deeds as well. With that being said, my colleagues and my brothers, Abu Sajid and Ali Davis, may Allah reward them well on my behalf. What they have spoken on and addressed and brought up in their talks, I'm sure فيه الخير الكثير, has an abundant amount of good in it. وفيه الكفاية, and sufficiency. It's more than enough what they have said. There's not necessarily a need for me to speak and come behind them. However, I know they'll be very upset at me if I came to the Markaz and left the people with nothing to go home empty-handed. So with that being said, we're going to mention, inshallah, a few small points, brief points, simple points that are relative to the topic, bi-idhnillahi azza wa jal. Hopefully we'll have the time to get into some of the questions from the sisters here, and some of the questions from the disciples online. And before we move forward, as we always try to do, and this is one of the habits of the ulama of the past, from the most famous of them is Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. When Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah would speak on an issue and talk about an issue, he would oftentimes say, وَلَيْسَ هَذَا مَوْضِعْ بَسْطِهِ وبسط هذه المسألة في مكان آخر أو له موضوع آخر وقد شرحنا هذا في موضع آخر وقد بينا بالتفصيل في موضع آخر. Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah will often say, we spoke on this issue in other places. We've given more details on this issue in this book, in this majlis, this sitting. We were asked this question and we gave a greater amount of details in another place, another time. Or oftentimes he would just make isharat. He would point towards things. Bring things up to the reader's mind and attention, and then say, and the details can be found in such and such a book. The explicit argument can be found in such and such a place. So this is something that we haven't made up and innovated. We didn't bring it up from our pockets. It's something that we've taken, alhamd, from many of the scholars of the past. So with that being said, with regards to other videos and other lectures and workshops that we have done on these topics, we oftentimes refer the listener or the watcher to those videos because time is always an issue. It's always an issue of crunched time, in which there are a lot of people, a lot of questions, a lot of different locations, so on and so forth. And oftentimes we have to economize our time. So please refer back to the playlist, which is called Disciples of Hadith, the Fiqh of Fasting. The Fiqh of Fasting. We did it in Masjid al-Ansar in Jamaica, New York, maybe 2 years ago, 2 Ramadans ago, if I'm not mistaken. It's a 3-part series. There were many speakers. Walillahi alhamd. It wasn't just me speaking and talking. There were many other brothers talking with regards to the virtue of Ramadan, the fiqh of Ramadan, the rulings of Ramadan. If you go to the 3rd video, the lecture that I had and that I spoke on was regarding the fiqh of women in the month of Ramadan. The fiqh of women in the month of Ramadan. So please go back to that lecture if you want further detail on some of these important issues. What I'll do now is mention a summary of what I mentioned 2 Ramadans ago, and perhaps a few new issues, and then we can get into the questions by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So first and foremost is the importance of seeking knowledge, and the obligation of seeking knowledge, and the importance of a tafaqquh fi din, of seeking understanding of the rulings of al-Islam in general, for men and for women, in Ramadan and outside of Ramadan. That's what this whole thing is about. That's the core essence of what we call disciplism. It's seeking knowledge, implementing that knowledge, propagating that knowledge, and living in the culture of seeking knowledge. So we have many proofs in the Quran and the Sunnah which show us the virtue of seeking ilm in general. And the greatest type of knowledge is knowledge of Allah. And specifically knowledge of Allah's names and attributes, as Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala explains, which is the Aslul Ulum. The foundation of all these different sciences and knowledge is knowing Allah and His names and His attributes. So the Quran is full of ample ayat regarding the superiority of knowledge and those who know over those who don't know. And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, we've spoken on this at many lectures as well. That keeps going on. Then we have the concept of what the Sahaba and the Salaf al-Salih radiallahu anhum, what they said regarding ilm and fiqh specifically. I want to mention one of those athar, and that is ما روي عن عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله تعالى عنه. It is quoted, or he's quoted to have said, الدراسة صلاة. الدراسة صلاة. He says studying is a type of prayer. Studying is a type of prayer, meaning that when you're studying knowledge, as if you're in salah, as if you're standing in prayer, sitting in prayer, bowing in prayer, prostrating yourself in prayer. So just be mindful of that. The concept of, am I seeking knowledge just for information, or is it also worship? And then of course we have the general rulings for men and women, and we have the rulings that are specific to women inside and outside of the month of Ramadan. طيب. As far as some of the most popular issues that pertain to women in the month of Ramadan, that are the most problematic or polemic, and that come up the most, they come up more frequently than others, then first and foremost is the concept of taking pills, birth control pills, that prevent one from menstruation. Is it permissible to do that? Is it recommended to do that? A sister, she says, I don't want to miss any days this month. I've missed too many days breastfeeding. I missed too many days when I was pregnant. I've missed too many days when I was traveling. So now I want to have a full Ramadan. Also, when the month of Ramadan is finished, I want to go right into the 6th of Shawwal after the Eid. So therefore, I'm going to prevent my monthly cycle from coming. Is that permissible? And if it is permissible, is it recommended? Is it a good thing? Or should a sister just go with the natural way that Allah Azza wa Jal made her and created her? Point number 2. Obviously, this is one of the most famous, is breaking your fast, not fasting because of pregnancy and because of breastfeeding. Nothing to do with making up the days, nothing to do with feeding, but just the sheer fact of when can I break my fast? Is it obligatory to break the fast the moment you're pregnant, even though you can be patient and keep your fast? Or is it something which is recommended? Or at least is it just a rukhsa, something which is allowed, a concession? It's not recommended to do, but it is allowed to do. We've explained that in that lecture and other lectures as well. And then we have the concept of making up those days because of pregnancy and breastfeeding. Do you just make the days up? Or do you make the days up and feed? Or do you just feed and not make up the days? Or nothing whatsoever? What is the ruling on that? And then we have a very popular issue of al-i'tikaf. And the last 10 nights of Ramadan, when the Muslims are making i'tikaf, can a woman make i'tikaf? Number 2, can she make i'tikaf without a mahram? Number 3, can she make i'tikaf if she's menstruating? Number 4, can she make i'tikaf if she has istihada, irregular bleeding? All of these things are very important. Or can she make i'tikaf, not necessarily pertaining to the mahram, but without her husband's permission? Her husband didn't prevent her, but he never gave her permission. Can she go and make i'tikaf and stay in the masjid? And then we have the concept of menstruating women reading the Quran, touching the Quran, so on and so forth. Is that permissible? Are you allowed to read the Quran and study the Quran? Can you afford 7 days to go by in the month of Ramadan without being connected with Allah via the Quran? Is that okay? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? What did the ulama of Islam say about that? And then we have the concept of when a woman is menstruating and she doesn't fast, and of course she doesn't pray, is her iman low? Is her iman deficient? Or is her iman growing and rising? Or is it just in the middle? Because you're not making salat, you're leaving off righteous deeds. Righteous deeds are the cause of iman growing and being enhanced, as we have explained in many lectures and classes before. Khairan inshallah. So let's take a brief selection, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, from one of my favorite books with regards to comparative study of fiqh that was of the current era, Al-Jami' li Ahkam al-Nisa, the comprehensive compendium of rulings of women, by Sheikh Mustafa Al-Adawi. It's a 5-volume book in which he gives a very scholastic, scholarly discussion and argument of all of the rulings that pertain to women. All of the rulings that pertain to women. Anything that you can think about. From salah, zakah, hajj, marriage, divorce, talaq, fasting, wearing jewelry, any issue that pertains to women. And the author in this book, he doesn't take an approach which is traditional of one school of thought. What the Hanbali ulama say, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim say, Shafi. No, he does it muqarran, comparative. And the author follows that which he feels is closest to the proofs and the evidences, and not sticking to one specific way or one specific style. So it says here, and when the second volume, page 394, and for those who are asking online, yes, the PDF can be downloaded online. It's for free. And the book is very old. And in my humble opinion, is one of the best books that have been written in the modern era on comparative fiqh for women or comparative fiqh in general. Moving forward, he says here, on page 393, we'll start a page ahead. He says, وَضْعُ الصَّوْمِ عَنِ الْحَامِلِ وَالْمُرْضِعِ. What happens to a woman who's pregnant and a woman who's breastfeeding? Do they have to fast? The first point or proof that the author mentions, he says, قال الإمام أحمد رحمه الله حدثنا وكيع قال حدثنا أبو هلال عن عبد الله بن سوادة عن أنس بن مالك رجل من بني عبد الله بن كعب أنه قال أغارت علينا خيل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فأتيته ويتغدى فقال أدنو فكل فقلت إني صائم قال اجلس أحدثك عن الصوم أو الصيام اجلس أحدثك عن الصوم أو الصيام إن الله عز وجل وضع عن المسافر شطر الصلاة وعن المسافر والحامل والمرضع الصوم أو الصيام إلى آخر الحديث. He says here that there's a hadith in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad. One of the companions, Anas ibn Malik, a man who was from the Bani Abdullah ibn Ka'b. He says, it goes to the point in which there was a man, he says, أغارت علينا خيل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فأتيته وهو يتغدى. There was a man who was eating lunch. He was eating lunch, and he said to another man, أدنو فكل. He says, come sit down and have lunch with me. Come eat with me. The man says, إني صائم. I'm fasting. I can't eat. He says, sit down and I'll tell you about fasting. Sit down and I will explain to you the philosophy of fasting. He said, إن الله عز وجل وضع عن المسافر شطر الصلاة. Allah, the mighty and the most high, the sublime and the majestic, he has made the traveler exempt from half of the prayer. Half of the salah, meaning he's allowed to shorten his prayers. 4 turn into 2. And Allah Azza wa Jal has also taken the burden of fasting from 3 people as well. The traveler, the pregnant woman, wal murdi', and the breastfeeding woman. These 3 people are not responsible for fasting. He who travels, one who's pregnant, and one who's breastfeeding. And we all know this. But it's the reason why I mentioned this hadith according to the author. Moving to the end of the hadith, the author says, Hasan. He says the chain of this narration is Hasan. It's a fair hadith. The author, he then says, لا نعلم خلافا بين العلماء في جواز إفطار المرضع والحامل إذا خافتا على أنفسهما أو على الجنين أو الولد وإذا أفطرتا هل يجب عليهما القضاء أم يجب عليهما الإطعام أم يجب عليهما القضاء والإطعام أم لا يجب عليهما شيء من ذلك أصلا لا قضاء ولا إطعام بكل قول قال فريق من أهل العلم. Listen very carefully, brothers and sisters. Listen very carefully. He says there's no difference of opinion among the ulama that we know about. We don't know of any differing that it is permissible for a woman who's pregnant or breastfeeding to break their fast. If they're afraid for themselves, they're afraid for the baby and their child, or they're afraid for the nourishment of the child that they're breastfeeding. Three things now. If a woman is scared that she's going to get sick and weak because she's pregnant, totally allow for her to break her fast. If a woman is afraid that the child, the baby in her womb, will have malnourishment, it's permissible for her to break her fast. And if the woman is scared for the child that she already gave, or do they have to make up the days and feed? Make up the days and feed. Listen carefully. And the last scenario number 4, he says, أم لا يجب عليهما شيء من ذلك أصلا, or nothing that they have to do. So we have 4 scenarios. Scenario number 1 is that they have to make up the days. Number 2, feed and not make up the days. Number 3, make up the days and feed. Scenario number 4 is to do nothing. To do nothing. The author, he says, the ulama of Islam, he says there's a group of the ulama they've taken one of those 4 options. So before we move forward, we realize and we know that no matter what view you take or you've been taught, the ulama of Islam, they've given the fatwa for that. So there's some scholars who say that a woman has to do nothing, period. It's done, it's over. And others, they say no, she has to make up the days. And then there are those who say she has to just feed and not make the days up. And then there are those who say she has to make up the days and feed, regardless of the details. And obviously, further details with regards to if there are so many different Ramadans in which they're piled up and stacked up. Piled up and stacked up, and which is a hardship. The author, he says, فَذَهَبَ فَرِيقٌ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ إِلَى أَنَّهُمَا تُفْطِرَانِ وتطعمان وتقضيان من هؤلاء الذين ذهبوا إلى ذلك سفيان ومالك والشافعي وأحمد كما نقل عنهم ذلك الترمذي رحمه الله إلى آخره. So the first group, those ulama who say that they are allowed to break their fast and they have to make up the days and feed. That was the view of Sufyan al-Thawri, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, and Imam Ahmed. These ulama, they held that view that she has to do both, double. He then says, وممن قال يفطران ويطعمان ولا قضاء عليهما إن شاءتا قضتا ولا إطعام عليهما وبه يقول إسحاق كما نقل عنه الترمذي رحمه الله. View number 2 is that they're allowed to break their fast and they just feed. That's it. They give the food. They feed the poor people and that's it. They do not have to make up the days. And that was the view of Ishaq ibn Rahawayh rahimahullah ta'ala. As the Tirmidhi has quoted, days, it's easy for a brother to say feed 80 poor people, but the woman who has to make up those days and have her normal life, it's not so easy and it's not so simple. So therefore, we don't want to discuss this any further. That's the safest route, the best thing to do. If you do not have the ability to feed and to make up the days, then at least make up the days. If making up the days is too difficult upon you, then pay for it. And inshallah ta'ala, feeding a poor person for one day is not a lot of money. In American standards, it's not a lot. If you paid for it overseas, it's even cheaper and even more affordable. So inshallah ta'ala, it's not going to be a back-breaking hardship upon you. It's not going to be a back-breaking hardship upon you. What's important is that if you're following someone else, and that person is trustworthy and reliable and qualified to be followed, that's one thing. If you're a student of knowledge, then you have to use your own mind, your own head. And you're not allowed to be a follower. You have to look and investigate yourself. As far as if you're confused, you read some things, you've heard some things, but you can't really put a conclusive touch on it, or you're scared and afraid, then go with the safest and most, or the view that has the most precaution therein. So this is just one example and one selection from the book among many, many, many other issues in the book, let alone the points that we spoke on briefly and pointed towards, let alone in those other lectures and in those other talks. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us all, to grant us beneficial knowledge and righteous action, and Allah surely knows best. We'll try to take some of the questions now. First question says, is it permissible for women to have body piercings in places other than your ears? Right. body piercings are something that we don't have a great deal of dalil for or against. We don't have a great deal of evidence for or against. We have general ahadith with regards to ear piercing. The women threw their earrings. Bilal collected the sadaqah for the Prophet on the day of the Eid, clearly proving that it's permissible for a woman to have an ear piercing. Okay? And we have the default, the rule of thumb, is that anything in the dunya is permissible until proven haram. But where is the proof defining what can and cannot be pierced? You can pierce the ear, but you can't pierce the belly button or something else other than that. Do we have proof for that? So therefore some say it's permissible to get other piercings. And others, they say no. Body piercings are a means of imitating non-Muslims and a means of imitating idol worshippers and devil worshippers and Satanists. Things like this. Where do piercings come from? What is the foundation of the culture of piercing the body, piercing the nose, piercing these things? So some people, they say it's haram and it can't be done, except for the ear. Some people say the nose. And others, they say if there's no proof from Quran and Sunnah, and there's no direct evidence against it, then it's permissible to do, as long as the odor is covered, and as long as it isn't something which is specific and special to the kuffar and the mushrikeen. Okay? So at the end of the day, if you have a husband, then be mindful of what your husband likes. Be mindful of that. You may get a piercing and he may feel it's haram, or maybe too provocative, or whatever the case may be. So just be mindful of those things. Also be mindful of the concept of exposing your awrah. Be mindful of the concept of exposing your awrah and showing off your piercings and flaunting your piercings and becoming addicted and obsessed with body piercings. Also, last but not least, is where are you getting pierced? And who is seeing that part of your body? And who is touching that part of your body? Is it a Muslim, a non-Muslim? Is it your awrah? Can you get this part of your body pierced? And what does it lead to? So be mindful of those things, and Allah knows best. Is a woman's wudu accepted, valid for salah if she has on a full face of makeup? If she made wudu before she put the makeup on, and then she put on the makeup, and she kept her wudu, there's nothing wrong with that. As far as her making wudu with the makeup on, and the makeup is thick, it's layered, it has a film, a crust, and it prevents it from reaching the pores, then that's clearly problematic. That's clearly problematic. As far as light makeup or makeup which the water permeates through or is saleable, whatever the case may be, that's a different story. It's a different story. And Allah knows best. The young lady recited the Quran. When finished, we said, Sadaqallahu al-Azim. I've heard this before, but never knew why people said it. Please explain. By the way, she has a beautiful recitation, mashallah. May Allah bless the young sister who recited the Quran. Saying Sadaqallahu al-Azim each and every single time after the recitation of the Quran should not be done. It shouldn't be done. And there's no direct dalil from Quran and Sunnah stating that you should say it every time you recite the Quran. Do we have verses that talk about Allah speaking the truth? Of course. Is Allah Azza wa Jal not described as Al-Azim? Of course. But not every single time. The Prophet, he didn't do that, nor the Sahaba do that. And Allah knows best. That's in brief. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. What can women who choose to pray the Taraweeh prayer home recite if they don't know the juz of the day in Arabic or don't have it memorized? What can women do? They can read what they know. It is not a condition for Salat Taraweeh that you have to recite the whole Quran. It's not a condition. That is something that many Muslims do. Many scholars prefer it, but it is not a stipulation. You can make Taraweeh with Qul Huwallahu Ahad. Qul A'udhu bi Rabbil Falaq. إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. There's no condition that has to be Baqarah all the way to Nas. It's not a condition. Or another option or alternative is to read from the Quran. Read from it, holding it on your tablet or whatever the case may be. Fear Allah the best way you know how. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. What lectures will be offered for sisters this Ramadan? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, because I don't know. I don't know. Perhaps, inshallah, Brother Abu Sajid, Brother Ali Davis, or other speakers who would like to come here and speak, Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, perhaps they can offer classes for the sisters. I honestly do not know. If it's most beneficial to do classes just for sisters or lectures, maybe another conference, I'm not sure. But we'll try our best to give you something, inshallah ta'ala. From Sandy, name of the book, Sins That Are Worse Than Others, read through the table of contents. when I pray salah at home, should I be on the right or left, in front, or even line with kids? It depends on how old the kids are. If they're young, keep them next to you, on the right or the left. That's nothing wrong with that. If they're a bit older, then that's a bit different. What if doctors do not recommend fasting? Do you listen to their recommendation or try fasting first and see how you feel? It depends on the recommendation. There may be strong medical advice against fasting, or a doctor may say it's best that you take the medicine in the daytime. You're not going to die. You're not going to be harmed by it. You're not going to, kill yourself, but it's best. It depends on the level of advice, and it depends on what illness or what sickness or what issue that you have. It depends. Al-Kaba'ir of Imam al-Dhahabi rahimahullah, the major sins or the cardinal sins of al-Dhahabi rahimahullah ta'ala. Sheikh Abu Sajid, he just wrote that down for me. I believe that was someone's talk before mine, so I'm not sure. Alhamdulillah, we have an explanation of the book on our channel. Walillah alhamd, the entire book we explained. The major sins of Dhahabi. Moving forward. Do you get the same blessing feeding a homeless person as you do as feeding a fasting person? During the month of Ramadan, are you supposed to only feed fasting Muslims? There is a reward in feeding anything and anybody. Muslim, non-Muslim, animal, human being, etc. Anything that is living and alive, there's a reward in feeding and giving that person sadaqah and charity. Is it the same as feeding a fasting person? The Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have said, "Man fattara sa'iman." He who gives a fasting person iftar. That's what he said. And he didn't say, "Man at'ama miskinan." "Man at'ama ja'iyan." He didn't say those words, but there's a reward in that as well. As far as do they have to be only Muslims, then that's what many of the ulama say, they should be Muslims. That the feeding, the fidyah should be given to Muslims. And Allah knows best. When are boys supposed to start fasting for the full month? How is puberty determined for boys? They should fast the entire month even before they're in puberty. If there's a boy who's 11 years old or 10 years old, make him fast. He's old enough. He has self-control. He has a mind. He can take it. Make him fast, inshallah. Even though he doesn't have to. He can be 12 and not in puberty. People differ when they go into puberty. So at the end of the day, if he has the ability to fast, then he should be taught to fast, so that when it becomes obligatory, mandatory, it's not burdensome upon him. It's not difficult for him to do. As far as when a boy becomes of age, then some of them may say 15, and others may say even older than that, whether it's 18 or 19. Some say is that when they have pubic hair. Some say that when they have a wet dream, they're in puberty. And others, they say that it's a collection of these signs. A collection of these signs. An Adam's apple, a deeper voice, their body, their face starts to change from a boy to a young man. And in most cases, these signs come at the same time. You get hair, you get a mustache, you start acting funny, get an attitude problem when you have a wet dream, when you're 14, 15, etc. Wallahu alam. Even though you're not required to fast when traveling, but if you do fast, does it count? Yes, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. If you have the sincere intention and you do it according to the sunnah, it is a good deed, and inshallah it is a reward. And many of the ulama say the best thing to do when traveling is to fast. Wallahu alam. One of the sisters asked, can you explain what defines the start and ending of suhoor? It's very simple. You eat at nighttime / morning time. It's still dark. Fajr time has not come in yet. If Fajr is at 4:30 a.m., hypothetically speaking, you're allowed to eat from anywhere from after Maghrib to 4:30. So if you want to have your meal at 4 o'clock a.m., tayyib. 3:30, tayyib. 4:15, tayyib. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the suhoor. And the suhoor doesn't have to be a grand meal. It can be dates and water, dates and milk, coffee, tea, chips and pretzels. Whatever you want to eat. Obviously be wise and be mindful of your nutrition and of your hydration. You should stay away from things that are going to dry you out. You should stay away from things that are going to make you thirsty. Things that are going to just burn out of your system really quickly. Things that don't give you the necessary hot nourishment. And Allah knows best. What constitutes a meal if you're feeding others? The custom of the people. Custom of the people. So in America, a basic meal is 3 courses, roughly. Even less than that, 2 courses. A starch and a meat. A starch, a meat, and a vegetable. So I have some bacon macaroni and cheese, I have some fried whiting, and I have collard greens. Basic simple meal. 3 courses. Simple. Wallahu alam. If there are no other questions from the sisters here, then we'll try to take some questions from those who are online until we run out of time. First question says, from Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, ya Shaykhana. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, barakallahu feek. MT from London, UK. Salam, Shaykhana. You mentioned once that a spawning Sufi is giving precedence. A spawning Sufi, it says here, is giving precedence over a sinful who has the correct aqidah and imamah. Can you please clarify? And it's caused confusion. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you. Just go back to the clip, inshallah, and the confusion will be removed. But you got to go back to the clip with an empty cup. You cannot listen to the clip thinking about what this one said and what that one said. But you have to actually listen to the words of the speaker, what he said. And you don't interpret it based off of what you want to or what another person wants to interpret it. But you base it off of what the speaker is clearly saying, and you base it off of what the speaker says in all other lessons and classes and the values that the speaker is promoting and pumping and propagating. So are there any classes in which we're promoting people to sit with a Sufi and to study with a Sufi? Do we propagate that? Do we promote that? What books do we teach? What ulama are we quoting from? Video after video, class after class, khutbah after khutbah, 5 minutes of faidah, 5 minutes of faidah, Sahih Bukhari, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim, over and over and over and over and over again, Fathul Bari. What do you think our creed is? What do you think we're promoting and calling to? But an actual a masala ilmiya, is it permissible to sit with someone who's a Sufi? If I had to pick between someone who has some errors, but he's pious and righteous, versus sitting with someone who's supposedly on a correct aqidah, but is a fasiq, an open, plain sinner, a womanizing person, who would you pick? The difference between someone giving a lecture and someone being, as we said, your teacher, baba ta'allum, your teacher, there's a difference. A student of knowledge who has certain things versus a layman person. And the extremism of the people with regards to bid'ah and the lackadaisicalness of the people with regards to sin. Bid'ah is the evilest act. Being a fasiq, no problem. That's a problem. It's a big problem. It's a huge problem. Okay? So you have to understand that in light of all of those things. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. That's all we'll say about that right now. Moving forward. It says from initials AH. I ask Allah to bless Mufti. Rare to find knowledgeable people like Mufti Muhammad Munir in the West will actually benefit from the people who teach people. May Allah bless you and make us better than what you think we are. NYG. Assalamu alaikum. Is it just me or is the video start stuttering? We're sorry about the connection, guys. We're very sorry about that. The PDF, if you email us, we'll try to send you the PDF, the link, inshallah. I have trigeminal neuralgia. I take meds 3 times a day. I also take nasal sprays and eye drops. It is an extreme difficulty for me to go throughout the day without these. How can I fast? Don't fast. If you have to take medicine, don't fast. It's very simple. Don't fast. Make up the days later. If it's a terminal illness, feed. According to those ulama that view, and others may say that there is no specific dalil for it'am, which we don't mention that right now. I have to take these medications. My name is Ali from Wayne County, Michigan. May Allah bless you, brother Ali, in Wayne County, Michigan. More questions? Question says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. ما هو حكم زكاة المال وما هو مقدار الإخراج أو ما هو مقدار الإخراج أو كذا وما هو مقدار الإخراج الزكاة ما هو مقدار إخراج الزكاة جزاك الله خيرا وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. زكاة المال هذا ركن من أركان الإسلام وضرورة من ضرورات الشرع شيء ضروري لا يجهله مسلم أن الزكاة ركن من أركان الإسلام. طيب أما مقدار الزكاة فهذا يختلف باختلاف أصناف المال الذي تزكي وتدفع يعني زكاته. هل هو زكاة النقدين، زكاة الحلي الخارج من الأرض؟ هل هو زكاة أموال التجارة؟ هل هو زكاة الركاز؟ هذا يختلف على حسب المال وعلى حسب صنف المال. وهذا أو هذه الأشياء والمسائل مبسوطة في كتب أهل العلم. أما زكاة النقدين يعني yearly savings، المال الذي يبقى عندك للسنة فما فوقها، فتزكينا منه ربع العشر 2.5. Not your bills, your gas, your water, etc. Al-mal, the money that sits and lays for you. Then you pay 2.5 of that. If إذا بلغ النصاب، إذا بلغ النصاب. أنا أنصحك يا أختاه أن ترجعي إلى المحاضرات التي ألقيناها في بسط هذه المسائل، مسائل الزكاة ومقدار الزكاة وأصناف المال و يعني مصارف الزكاة, recipients of zakat. Please go to the lectures that we've done on that in detail. Wallahu a'lam. Can you fast for your recently deceased husband? Do you do yours 30 days separate from him? You fast Ramadan for yourself. If your husband missed days and you want to make those days up from him and he was required to fast, then it doesn't or cannot come in competition with your Ramadan. It has to be done separately on another time. How does an adolescent make up days if they can't fast due to illness? They're a student and parents provide provisions. If they were illness temporarily, make up the days later on. فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ. If it's a terminal illness, then feed later on, as we've just explained. Can we leave braids in our hair while we make a ghusl from hayd? Yes, you can. And we've explained that as well. One of the first videos on Mufti Q&A. What the ulama of Islam say about those hadiths regarding taking out braids for janaba versus hayd. Wallahu alam. Assalamu alaikum. What is the ruling regarding the woman who intends to make umrah but does not have a mahram? My son has reached puberty but is not yet old enough to fulfill the role of a protector. I don't understand. If he's reached puberty, how can he not be a mahram? What's meant by being a protector? Does he have to be 50 years old? The answer is there. I can't answer the question. If he's reached puberty, what is meant by a protector? You may have a husband that can't fight. He's skinny and frail and fragile. He can't do nothing for you. That doesn't mean he's not a mahram. It does not mean that he isn't a mahram. Wallahu alam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How many rak'ats to pray for Taraweeh? Inshallah ta'ala, make 8 rak'ats for Taraweeh and 3 for witr. How can I help my teenage daughter 14 reap the benefits of fasting as opposed to just getting through the day and looking forward for iftars and gatherings? Teaching her the wisdom behind fasting, the secrets behind fasting. Teach her the concept of fasting. Why we fast, just to starve and be thirsty? Or is something deeper than that? And teach her the concept of reward and how hard work leads to a reward. It's a universal law. You work hard, you taste the sweetness of your labor. Wallahu alam. What is said of a woman who missed days for whatever reason, i.e. mints, and never make them up and the next Ramadan approaches? She should make tawbah, and according to some ulama, make a fidyah for those days. Wallahu alam. Practical steps in Islamifying your home, one step at a time. Learning, making sure that you have the proper knowledge, and making sure that you have to remove this, because you may not have to remove that thing. Making sure that this is haram, this is a bid'ah, this is a bad book, and taking steps. Don't rush. Don't go radical. Don't take the people into too deep water too soon. Someone is just beginning to swim. You can't take them to the middle of the river. Be mindful. Steps. Take your time. Speak with them. Converse with them. Explain things. And gradually take leaps. And Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best. I think that's all the questions from online. And I think those are all the questions from the people here. I don't know if the live stream is off or broken. I'm not sure.